Daddy.
3, 2, 1.
Well, welcome back to Server Restart In. It's your weekly World of Warcraft podcast, where three opinionated players get together to discuss their thoughts about the current state of the game. My name is Jim, joined by Brian.
Hi.
And Kristen. Daddy! All right.
Oh my god, I knew that was coming.
And it's been another slow week.
That was what?
Slow week.
Another slow week. We did get some new stuff in the game, courtesy of Hearthstone.
Oh, yeah.
If you make it through the new mode tutorial, the mercenaries mode or whatever, you will, and start a bounty, you will get Sarge the Mouse, which is basically like the, I guess the Year of the Rat was that one.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, but he doesn't fly. But it's basically just similar to that. So, free mount.
You just log in to get it?
No, you have to log in, go through the tutorial for Mercenaries mode, and then start the first bounty. So, I don't know if you've checked it out or not.
I'm looking at it right now.
It's actually not bad. It's basically you get player cards, and you can have like 3, and they're colored red, blue, and green. So, like blue strong against red, red strong against green, green strong against blue, like your typical color wheel, like Pokemon type stuff. And they have attacks, and as you use them, they level up, and they get new attacks. And as you gain treasure and stuff, you get coins, so you can level up their abilities. And you unlock some, and you get legendary ones, and you basically just pick a quest to go do. You get like a little map, and you pick your path to the end, doing different fights, and you fight against other things. So it's not like you're building a full deck. You just have character cards that you've leveled up. So it's like any of those games are like Raid Shadow Legends or whatever, where you collect characters and build them up and fight with them and all that kind of stuff. So it's just similar to that. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty quick to get through things, and it wasn't too bad. I didn't really feel like it was a burden to do it. It's like you get them out in like 10, 15 minutes. Pretty easy. It took me, I don't know, probably 10 minutes to figure out how to get out of whatever menu I was all the way back out to the beginning so that I could pick the actual mode I was playing. So that was kind of embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why it left me down in there, didn't go to the main menu when it started the game, but that was that. So I think that's kind of it for like new stuff in retail. I haven't really played much. We raided Sunday, did a little bit of stuff. I got a little bit drunk beforehand, so it was kind of entertaining.
Oh, yeah. Everybody wants you to get drunk again, by the way.
You guys do better?
No.
I think I did exactly the same that I do.
We put it this way, we didn't kill Painsmith, and we had to start over from the beginning.
We didn't kill Painsmith because we were pugging, and nobody went, and we were really close a couple of times, and then the pugs were left because we had 2 wives with them or something like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how long it had been since we started, because we were already an hour and a half in or something like that, and I'm just like, oh, I didn't realize we had been going this long. And we only gone through 2 pugs and a few polls or whatever. So I guess we spent a lot of time waiting.
We did spend a lot of time waiting.
I was inebriated. I'm not going to lie. But I don't feel that it affected my ability to perform.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It was
apparently it was funny.
It was pretty funny. He was very funny.
But that aside, yeah, no, just kind of waiting for new content in the game. So I figured we could try something a little bit different this week. I actually wrote down some things to talk about that are all kind of related and can build upon one another and have a logical progression from one topic to the next and build on it. And I figured we could talk about just the whole concept of lore and world building with WoW as like a test case, right? Or just the Warcraft universe in general. Right, so we can start with, just like the concept of world building, which is, you set down your basic rules for how things function, who's in it, how things work, all that kind of stuff. And we go back to, I was doing a little bit of reading about, what was going on in orcs and humans, or orcs versus humans, like, Warcraft 1 and all that stuff. And how apparently the canon timeline is the orc or the Horde campaign, with some bits of the Human Alliance or the Human campaign added as canon, like, Garona assassinating Ren, or Lane Ren, the king that she killed.
The one that got, in the movie,
Yeah. So, some of that kind of stuff, and, it's just interesting how, they started with a simple concept, right? Orcs versus humans. It's just, here's these two characters, or these two types of characters, and that's pretty much it. So they built, they built the orc, race up. They got, your dark magic users for your warlocks. You got your, your warriors and all that stuff. And then your peons, your laborers and all that stuff. So they built kind of like this whole caste system. And they were from Draenor, and they built a portal, and they came over here. And then you had the human stuff. And then, and you get into Warcraft 2, they start adding in, some of these other characters. They started adding, I think that's when they added, the elves, and they started adding in the gnomes, and the goblins, and the ogres. I think those were all, special classes and stuff like that. Were they Tauren in Warcraft 2? Maybe not. I don't remember.
No, they met them in 3, didn't they?
Maybe. I don't remember. But as you can see, it's as these games evolved, they were able to expand these concepts and this world out, and they kind of,
Wasn't it one of those situations though where they had to go back and, obviously they had to go back and elaborate on lore generally, but wasn't orcs versus humans wasn't it technically not as lore heavy? It was just an RTS perspective, you know what I mean?
It definitely was not lore heavy, but they definitely took parts of that, as far as the orcs are from Draenor and Stormwind and the humans, and I think it was eventually decided that the orc player character was Doomhammer.
Yep. I see
that's the character that it was, and then I think the human character, since it wasn't canon or whatever, but he was eventually, he was a regent set up to govern some stuff, and I don't know if he became the king after Lane Ren was killed, kind of thing, but that's not canon, so. But so it's they kind of laid this framework. The other games kind of expanded on it, and we know that there was an obvious lot of retconning with things. They went back, they tweaked things, they changed some stuff, whether or not it's, a direct change, or if they kind of expounded upon some things, I forget exactly what some examples of that were, but the Eridar. I think initially they were a separate race from the Draenei, and then they went back and kind of retconned that they were the main race, and the Draenei were the faction that split off because they didn't want to join the Legion. And it's just and then I guess they really, really, really leaned heavy into it when they started into, Warcraft 3. Because that's when you get the Lich King stuff and the...
Oh man, this epic screenshot that's 200 by 100 pixels of Warcraft orcs versus humans. Oh, I love it.
Oh yeah, no, it's ridiculous. It's almost like Diablo, playing Diablo 2 and going back to the old graphics and just being like, it's ridiculous what the graphics look. And I don't remember it looking that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's probably like the same kind of, tricks your brain plays on you for that. But, and so obviously they did a lot of building of the world, and they tweaked we talked about this too in the past. Like, they used to have a lore section on their website with a lot of different stuff you could read that explained like the Titans and all that stuff, and the old gods, and it went through all that stuff. And then they took it all down because they were changing some of that stuff, and so they've been playing with it, but either in a way that's expanding it or clarifying, I guess. And it's hard to maintain that kind of stuff on a level this large, right? It's like, I think the scope for the world building has gotten to the point where it's not world building, it's cosmos building. Because, like, we've jumped to the Shadowlands, and, even with Legion.
I think that's one of their bigger issues, though. Like, I think that they defined, I know we talked about this again already, but they defined the idea of the far-fetched ideas they defined too quickly or early, in my opinion.
Right, and that kind of leads into the next stuff where I wanted to kind of talk about was like rate of expansion, right? It's like, how quickly do you expand the bubble that your world is in, right? It's like Orcs versus Humans was pretty much just in the area around Stormwind, I believe, with ultimately, coming from Draenor through the portal, attacking Stormwind, and doing that, and then it kind of, the world slowly grew, but then they hit a point where, I don't know, did they feel that there was nowhere, it didn't make sense in WoW to keep adding new places on the map? It's like, because they added, in Mist, they added, Pandaria, right? That magically appeared.
Well, that was the thing, though, wasn't it? Like, because at that point, even Cataclysm, the only cool thing, in my opinion, that came from Cataclysm was the unveiling of... Okay, so two things, maybe. What's the thing in the middle called?
The Tempest?
Is it
not the Tempest?
Maelstrom?
Maelstrom.
Yeah, go.
It's just another word for Tempest.
It is.
That and
the Earthen Realm, the Stone Deep.
Well, that part's cool. Oldham, though. Oldham being like a gate with a hole in the wall for so long, and then you finally get to see what's there. And then I was kind of pissed off because then it's like not mysterious anymore. So, because it was always one of those things like, oh, can I jump over this thing and maybe make it there? There's so many different things about, in World of Warcraft specifically, the old map, like before Cataclysm, that seemed like there was always a potential to jump to or something like that and find something new.
Like Mount Hyjal, right? It's like,
that's another one. Well, I guess
when
there's
did
more
they add
than
that
one.
Caverns of Time thing for Mount Hyjal? Was that in BC? I don't think it was in vanilla, right?
Yeah, it was
so
BC.
You had this giant mountain with a world tree that we know stuff about because books and other things, I guess, happened there. I don't remember if it was in one of the other Warcraft RTS games. Maybe it was in 3?
That's the cinematic was in 3.
Right, where the
2?
wisps kill him
3.
or whatever.
Yeah, it would have been 3.
Yeah. So we knew about it, and we knew where it was, but you could never get there, right? And it's the same thing like with Oldham, except Oldham, I think, was completely different because it was just an area that was there, and we didn't know anything about it. And there was like one little area outside of it that you could go into, like in Daenerys, the very south end. There was like a little temple or something like that. I think that was there that you could kind of like poke around in, but it just kind of gave hints at it. But yeah, Uldum wasn't explorable. Tol Barad out there in
yeah, that's another one.
It wasn't called Twilight Highlands. Was it Dun Moreau? Was that the zone that it was in initially?
Yeah, well, it was on the southern tip of the wetlands.
Okay, yeah. And it was like you could go all the way in there and go into the gates of this old dwarven thing, and you could never get in there.
No, that wasn't Tol Barad.
Oh, no, is it?
No, that was
Barad Hold. Barad Hold?
I don't remember. Oh my goodness!
It's
gotta look it up.
It's one of those cataclysm dungeons.
That sounds correct. Barad Hold or something like that.
Hold on, let me look up all the different dungeons because it is Grimbatol.
No, that's Grimbatol. Yeah, that's the one that's like.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the dungeon at the top of the place in the wetlands in Cataclysm. Remember where we ride dragons and hit stuff for a little bit?
That's Grimbatol. Is it not? Yeah, that's Grimbatol.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's the old Dwarven Kingdom. Yeah, I don't even. Tol Dagor was the. Wasn't that the one on the PvP, the raid in the PvP thing or whatever? Yeah, no, it was Grimbatol. We're talking about the same one, and that's the instance that is like the old Dwarven thing. It's like you'd run down this valley or like this canyon. And it's just full of all this like dwarf architecture, and you get to these giant fucking stone doors, and it's just, what's there? You know what I mean? It's like you got this air of mystery of just like, man, it'd be really interesting. It feels like it was almost like an analog to like Moria, right?
It sucked though. It sucked because Cataclysm ruined all the mystery. It really did. And that's what people wanted. But I don't think they wanted it that quickly. And I don't mean to get off on a design issue.
Well, how else do you... you open it up.
They opened everything up like in that one expansion, though. Like, because we didn't have like a new land or whatever, then it was like, oh, here's the Dragon Ball clan. They got their own area and it's penetrated by testicles. Tentacles, huh? Not testicles. This is terrible. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Well,
tentacle. You know what I mean? And then even what you're talking about. But it's one of those things when it becomes like an expansion level feature like that, then we're one and done, and it's gone.
But how do you?
So now we have like.
But how do you avoid that? You know what I mean? It's like, how could you have turned Grimbatol into something?
It could have been more.
More than
not even just that. I don't really care about Grimbatol so much. I'm like, even the Tol Barad and all that stuff. Like, probably could have had more to it. Even Oldham could have been more about it, right? Because a lot of these places have roots into heavy lore, in terms of what were the original Titan Keepers called? Titan Keepers? I don't know. You know what I mean?
The Titans and the Titan Keepers.
Yeah, like the Titan Keepers roaming around and stuff like that. And wouldn't one of them, wasn't Oldham a reference for one of them that something happened? I don't know. It's just stuff like that. It's stuff like that where I feel like
maybe like in Ungoro Crater, do they talk about the halls of origination there or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Well,
it's like, yeah, but you know what I mean. Like,
but so I would say that Oldham did get more use because we saw it in
that's true.
In BFA. Like, because we, all the Magnus shit, we went there because it was a Titan powerhouse and we were trying to prevent the
Magni and me.
Yeah. The Magni.
Beetle!
The Magni and
See
me
you later,
side quest. Yeah. It's like, I'll meet you back at
Instant
wherever.
transportation.
Yeah, I can go through the earth. You're just kind of SOL. But,
See you later.
so they did a lot there with it. Plus they added in the invasions for the Black Kingdom or whatever, later, which is neat, to see that kind of stuff. It was only 2 zones, but, they should have been more.
It should have been more because there was a lot of lore there too. We could have.
Well, it's just like, why just those 2? It's like, well, I guess because they had Titan facilities, maybe. I don't know.
That I don't know. Yeah.
But, I mean, still, it's just, when they do something like that, it's good. You know what I mean? Like when they have throwbacks to old content and you go and you get involved in it and all that kind of stuff, it's like, it's good. If you're going to expand and you're going to advance the story, I think you should try to do it in a way, and this is probably really hard, or was really hard in the video game setting, but incorporate everything. You know what I mean? It's like they've gotten a lot better with making like instanced zones and stuff like that, because you had your what did they have in Panda Land? They were the challenges thing, scenarios, yeah. Right? So you could make like instance things. You could do that with everywhere. Like when the black thing was the Black Kingdom was invading and all that stuff, or the Old God invasion stuff, it's like you could have had stuff pop up all over the fucking place and make it more of a catastrophic world-ending thing as opposed to just, oh, well, where are we going? Where are we setting our hearth to now? We'll do more, whatever. Make it random or make it, just put stuff out there where maybe it's not like big invasions. Like, so this is like what was happening in Guild Wars 2 is the main storyline stuff has to do with like the dragons getting powers and fighting over the dragons and all that stuff. And like they killed the dragon of undeath and another dragon got his power. So they were there were like events happening all across the world where portals were open up and the undead would just kind of start attacking. And it was in like every fucking zone, it would just be random, and like if they were to have done something like that,
like when Deathwing went around and murdered everybody.
Oh yeah. Didn't they turn that off?
Yeah, that was a pre-expansion thing. Remember, because for a while the screen would rumble randomly and nobody knew what was going on, and then finally he started appearing and killing people. That's
how you got the I stood in the fire achievement.
Yeah. Yes.
And then they took it away, and then you could get it back when you fought him in Dragon Soul, because that was the only other way to get it.
Yeah.
Man, that was cool. It's like that should have been the whole expansion until Dragon Soul, honestly. But I think people were
kind of was.
I think people were getting mad that they were getting killed.
Oh, him flying. Yeah, that would have been awesome, actually. Because then it would have been every zone. Well, it would have been kind of weird if he did it in Deep Home. Yeah, that would have been weird.
I mean, obviously that wouldn't make sense, right? Every zone but Deep Home.
He's like, I've gone everywhere else. I got to go get that one too. Here I go.
It's like, I wrecked that place on my way out.
Yeah.
I don't need to go back. But yeah, so I guess back to the whole expansion, not like game expansion, but expanding the lore. I think you are right. I think they did make some leaps that went too far too fast. And I think it's a hard thing to balance because once you start getting, bigger and grander, just like with like Legion, right? It got pretty freaking grandiose, right? Because we're fighting the Burning Legion. That's a huge cosmic.
That always felt like to me like they just got tired of talking about the Sargeras story. And the reality is like Sargeras really should have been one of the end all be all type characters, in my opinion. Well, like it should have been just something where it was almost impossible to ever. You're right, because it's always a consistent threat. Its threat was multi-dimensional, we know. And even though there is still bigger than what he is as a problem, like at least we knew about him because we've experienced that so many times between the books and the games. Like, he's been a consistent
I think
threat to the existence in the lore. So
I think part of the problem,
for it to wrap up so
yeah, is like part of the problem with him is that he's an Eridar that just got like a fell buff. You know what I mean? It's like he's not necessarily a Sargeras?
He's a Sargeras.
Sargeras and Archimonde?
He's a Titan.
Oh, I'm thinking of the other guy. Archimonde and the other one.
Oh yeah, no, he's a wiener. No, Sargeras being like the guy who cuts worlds in half.
Sargeras and then who else? Not Sargeras. Archimonde and
oh, yeah, I don't remember who the other one is.
What the fuck? There was 3 of them.
Tichondrius?
Nope, Tichondrius was the Dreadlord.
Dadgummit. Archimonde's the one that we killed twice, right? Or 3 times?
Yeah, we killed him at the end of WoD. We killed him at he had his fucking disco ship that we fought him on. Kill Jaden. Jesus.
Kill Jaden, there you go. Yep. He's the one that you fight at the World Tree too, isn't he? Kill Jaden.
I think so.
I don't remember. And then he stuck his body like halfway through the portal. Wasn't that him too?
Yeah, at the end
of
the
Sunwell.
No, at Sunwell. Yeah, that's right. He was at Sunwell. Archimonde was at WoD.
But that's a really cool story, though, man. As far as lore is concerned, like you have this constant invasion that you kind of can't stop, right? And then, I mean, I would say the underlying benefit of Shadowlands in general is gonna be what comes about from the Dreadlords, because that's still part of that secret society. Like,
that is
what are they doing?
That is a good. Well, we know that they're in service to fucking Denathrius, right? I mean, everything they've ever done, it's always been to further his plans, and he's subservient to the jailer, right? I mean, that's just kind of where that road ends. I mean, I don't think there's really anything. I don't think the Dreadlords are doing anything on their own volition or anything that we really have to worry about, because we already know kind of what their end goal is. Like, they're supporting Denathrius, who's supporting the jailer. You know, and that sucks, right? You know, that takes all the mystery out of it, because now we know who their boss is and we know who they ultimately serve. There is still the light forged one, like, was it Balnazar, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe that's not exactly who he is, but you know, the
the
question
one
is,
on the ship.
Yeah, the question is he still one of those, or like, is he still serving Denathrius, or did he break free of that and did he give that up? That's something to be concerned about, because maybe he allowed himself to be changed by the light so that he could find a weakness of the light, so that Denathrius can fight back against the light, because we know that they were bad. Light doesn't like him because of all the shit he was doing.
Maybe he was blinded by the light.
He was revved up like a deuce. Another runner in the night.
Another runner in the night.
Yep. I don't know.
Never know.
You never know. But yeah, so like they do have a problem with kind of jumping, taking bigger leaps. And I think the problem is when you make that first leap, it's how do you shorten the next leap? How do you make something that's
you have to wonder though, like, how far did they actually think they were going to be able to go originally, and where and at what point are they probably maybe flying by the seat of their pants, or maybe they were at one point in history and have spent multiple expansions trying to correct themselves in terms of like how much lore can we crunch out, right? Because whenever you consider something as simple as the Lich King and how lore rich it was, right? When you consider it was a down to earth big baddie, he has got a castle, we gotta go save the princess, something like that. Versus let's go to outer space. Let's ride the magical goat ship. Let's put a planet-sized being in a prison. Like,
yeah, it's
Legion was badass, but it's still a far-fetched fucking story. And when you compare it to something as badass as the Lich King and its story, right? It's just almost completely different in terms of, you know, lore production and consumption. Like
it's the power creep issue. It's the characters get too powerful. It's the same thing with like Dungeons and Dragons, right? You know, the first half of like the first 10 levels, you know, you're facing kind of mundane threats or whatever. But once you start getting above that, you start facing off against like god level threats and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And then like you get to the point where you become gods yourself, and it's just like, and that's there's no.
Which I guess
way to balance
really
it.
they've always been there. If that's the case, they've always been there, and that's kind of sucky. But as soon as you leave the town level aspect of telling a story, right, where you got to go get the thing back because the thief stole it, or prevent the animals from overrunning or something, you know, like
Right.
Once you get past that level of lore, you know, you just keep going on and on and on. And honestly, that's another sucky part of, and that's a gameplay mixture of lore and design, that there's just no reason to ever go back and go save the town crops, or, you know, go do whatever at that lower level.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't. There's no going back, and that's part of the problem when you have a game that's as old as it is, right? You know, you're talking about a game that's 17 years old coming up, and it's one of those things. It's like, it's not like somebody sat down and wrote, you know, what, 9 books in a series. We're on. Are we on 8? No, we're on 9. The 9th expansion, right? So, like, if somebody had wrote 9 books over the course of 14 years, and it progressed this way, people wouldn't have a problem with it per se, because they don't have to live in that universe and interact with it. They can visit it. You know what I mean? Like, when you read a book, you kind of visit that thing, and you are there for a short amount of time. Whereas with the game, it's like you're kind of a denizen of that universe, and now you have to live through all this kind of stuff. And you're right, there is no going back. You know, it's just like, even with, you know, like classic and all that stuff coming back, it's like, sure, you can kind of go relive it, but it's, you know, game wise, it's not as fun. Story wise, I think it's really neat to go back and do all that stuff. I like going back and doing all the side quests and seeing the stories and all that stuff. I think that, but it's really hard to take all the power away from the characters as they are, because the characters are just like super badass characters now, you know, and it all comes back to the borrowed power, right? You know, it's like things are given to us to make us a cosmic threat against, you know, the entities that we're facing, and at the end of it, it's like, well, depower your weapons against this giant sword, or, you know, well, the Heart of Azeroth only works on Azeroth, and you're no longer on Azeroth, so all that power is gone. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, it's like, it gets old pretty quick, and I don't see a way out of it. You know what I mean? Unless there's just some sort of like magical event that transports everybody to.
well, they kind of had a way out. Like, I don't know. I mean, one of the cool things about resetting back to level 60 or level 50 or whatever was that technically you had an opportunity to reset the perspective of power in the game, right? By just simply, because in reality, the level and stuff really shouldn't matter. The power, the gear power shouldn't matter. In terms of the story, the difficulty that we overcome as 25 people against the Lich King is really not much different than the attempt that we have to do against whatever else, right? Because most of the time we're usually borrowing some power from somebody or getting somebody's help to solve a problem, all these things, right? So whenever you take the whole idea of like numbers and some numbers that represent some perspective of power out of it, reset it, flatten it, whatever you want to call it, normalize it, it kind of gives you an opportunity to reset that perspective. And then they went and did Shadowlands with it. So
I don't think that it's even a matter of perspective, because like even if they had done that and we had stayed on Azeroth, what are they going to throw at us that's not something that's bigger than what we just faced? That lore, I mean, we're talking lore.
But again,
we're not
like,
talking
again, all those things though, we used tremendously borrowed power to fight those things by normalizing everything. We're getting back down to earth, so to speak. And, you know, at that point, yeah. Oh, wow. We just got rid of that big old threat and we lost all this power and legion and all this stuff. And it's like, I'm like, whoa, wow. Okay, well, I'll go back to making boots at the.
I think I figured out how to do it. And whether this is something that could survive an expansion or not is, are you familiar with any of the Spider-Man stories where he basically sold his marriage to the devil so that they could bring Aunt May back, and like or he, that was one of them, but the other one was he did something, he sold his love for Mary Jane in his wedding so that he could make everybody forget that he was Peter Parker, because throughout some of the course, like, he revealed his identity, but he wanted to get that anonymity back or whatever. What if there was something that, one, removes the player character's powers, and two, puts them either in an alternate timeline or back into a certain point in the timeline, so such that certain events didn't happen or haven't happened yet or aren't going to happen because whatever, but nobody knows who we are. So we remember we did all this stuff and everybody looks at us like we're just fucking crazy. What the fuck are you talking about? You went to the land of the dead. You know, what are you talking about? You know, Pandaria. Pandaria is not even, you know what I mean? Just something like that. And like,
well, remember we talked about like the timeline difference possibility that was brought up because of Shadowlands.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not really much different. Like,
well,
hey, we just saved the world. Oh, well, you just came back or something, or you know what I mean? I think that's what we're talking about.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about getting.
I know you're not talking about that. I'm saying that it's similar in that concept that like nothing actually really happened, even though you did do a bunch of shit, and like I don't know, something along those lines. It would be an
interesting thing, and it would be something that either, you know, the goal would be to break the curse kind of thing that's like making everybody forget, or just adapt to the new environment. You know, I don't know. Maybe that would be how they would start, you know, World of Warcraft 2 or something like that. You can copy your character over, but nobody remembers them.
The good news is that, you know, they'll never do that. So, or I wouldn't say that's the good news, but rest assured they won't do that. So, and I'm not saying it's bad or good, but it's just
hard.
I don't know,
because everything's just getting kind of goofy, and it's just like,
it really is,
and it sucks, you know. And it's just like, and now we got all this stuff going on where they're scrubbing all kinds of shit from the game in weird ways, and some of it is based on, it affects the lore. So we know that they're taking out inappropriate references and all that stuff. You know, one of the
Einhorn.
Well,
I didn't even know he was. I didn't even know that was a character.
But I didn't realize that. I think I read somewhere that it was an amalgamation of the character from Ace Ventura that was the
It was a trans person at the time.
Yeah. Or something along those lines, either trans or crossover.
I just remember I didn't get that joke when I was little. I thought they had pooped in their underwear instead of
it being the dick and balls. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember that. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't even realize that was a reference.
I'm fine with changing that, right? Changing a character's name because it references something that could be construed as transphobic. Okay, fine. You know what?
Yeah,
whatever.
it's weird because like I definitely didn't get that feeling, but I could see how that could have been construed that way.
You would have to.
I don't know the character's lore or anything. Was there lore behind like?
That was the dude that kept getting eaten by the fucking core hounds and you'd get him out. So he had a bunch of stuff named after him. So he wasn't non-prevalent, but it was very little that you'd run into him. I think they brought him back for something. I forget what it was. Maybe in Legion when they brought a bunch of people back, kind of like interesting characters or something like that. But it's one of those things where you have to be really in tune with old stuff because Ace Ventura is an old movie. Mm-hmm. And was it intended to be? Because I don't even understand.
Yeah, at the end of the movie, it was very.
No. I get what happened in the movie, but I don't understand why why they would name that character that unless they just liked the names and jumbling them up, and they came up with like that's a funny name. We named it after this. Was it named after that? Is that gnome character a trans character? You know what I mean? It's just like, what's the point of the name?
There's got to be more to it, probably, because sure. I didn't read much into it by any means, but
I read
that was my first. That was my first impression. Was like, I don't think at the time when they probably created that character that was the intention. Maybe it was, but. Again, if it's just a naming reference and the reference is just a bad reference, then whatever, it is what it is.
And then, they're ruining the best joke in the game that there's no male blood elves.
Yeah.
So all the...
Wait, what?
So Johnny Awesome, the elf character that you give quests to and all that stuff, there's plenty of references to him being a woman because he's a male blood elf. So they're changing a bunch of those lines. They changed one. It's like they asked something about like, oh, does the little girlie want a doll or something like that? To,
I don't remember that.
What's the matter, boy? You need a tissue or something like that. And I'm like, that's not any better because now you're saying it's not okay for boys to cry or something like that. But, whatever. But like they're making a bunch of changes to that because... but that's...
As long as they don't change the orc pooping in the outhouse. And
so this is just kind of bringing into something that is... I wanted to talk a little bit about that stuff to kind of lead into some of the other changes that they're making that I do think impact the lore. There's humans and orcs have a very sordid history in this game. The orcs invaded Azeroth, killed a bunch of humans. The humans imprisoned the orcs, all that stuff. Even nowadays, there's a lot of distrust between the two races, right? And a lot of it is based on stuff that happened in the past. Sure, maybe that's not the way the orcs are now and all that stuff, but there was a lot of lines in there where certain humans, and most likely they were like Kultirans or something like that, that would refer to orcs as greenskins or as what you call it, like not heathens but like savages or something like that. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's not PC, right? Sure, it's hateful language, but these people have a valid reason for hating them and for using these pejoratives like that. You know what I mean? It's like that. It makes sense. Is it okay, or when did it not become okay to portray real life situations that just because they're not PC and it's not it's not okay to be racist, right? Everybody agrees it's not okay to be racist. But when you have a group of people that were attacked and killed and driven out of their homeland by another one, you don't think that they're going to have some sort of resentful hate and that they're going to express that in some way? It's like, that's not, I don't think that that's okay. I don't think that's an okay thing to take out. I think that that removes any type of like, I don't know. It just makes it feel less real. You know, it's like that kind of stuff really happens. And it's just not, it's like, they're not just saying, oh, well, you know, oh, hey, these green skinned people showed up and they're different than us, but so we hate them. You know, it's like, no, they showed up and they razed their towns, sacked their capital, killed their fucking king, and all this other shit. You don't think they're going to fucking hate them? You don't think they're going to call them, you know, disparaging names and all that stuff? That's how fucking life works. You can't fucking, you know, sugarcoat life and pretend that this shit doesn't fucking happen. You know, I think that does a disservice to, like, everything. It's like, you need to understand that that is a part of intelligent beings' thought processes. You know, some people hate other people because of something that happened, whether that hate is, you know, well placed or not. You know, it's like if something happens to you and it's done by a certain type of person and you develop a hatred for all those type of people because one person wrong, that's not right, but it's, you can understand how that could come about. You know, it's like there's logical steps for why that happened. And, you know, and it's just like that person obviously needs to work on doing all that stuff. So a lot of the stuff that they're changing, though, is stuff that's not like, it's not like it's new characters in like the new latest thing using these terms and all that stuff. This is like old shit that at that time, those wounds were still fresh. I don't think that that's okay to take out. I think it's okay to put examples of real life hatred and all that kind of stuff in there because it's real, you know, and, you know, you can have in-game things that kind of, you know, you run through that, but then you talk to somebody else and like, oh, don't listen to them. They're, you know, stuck in the old ways, or they just never got over this. And it's just like, you know, you can't make people change their mind. You know what I mean? You know how hard it is to change somebody's thoughts about a certain topic? You know, it's like you do the best you can, but, you know, you can't always expect people don't want to change. And I think going in, I think that just does a disservice, personally. I think that, you know, it's not like they're sitting there saying things that, one, affect real people, because guess what? I've never seen anybody with green skin. So it's not like it's, you know, and you can go ahead and call it a real life analogy or whatever you want, you know, and it just allows people don't fucking pick shit up from fucking games like that. People don't learn how to interact with other people from stories in games or books or fucking TV shows and all that stuff. People understand that, you know, it's like, there's this whole fucking thing. It's like, oh, all these shooting games is an increase in fucking violence among people. It's like, get the fuck out of here. That's not true. And it's never been true. You know, fucking music with bad lyrics and all that stuff, you know, back when they were fucking like all the Tipper Gore shit back in the fucking 80s and 90s and all that shit, which most people listening to this probably have no fucking clue what that is, but that was the reason why they have all these fucking explicit content labels on music in the U.S. and all that stuff, was because, you know, or the same thing with like the satanic panic, when, you know, people thought people that played D&D were in cults and were sacrificing people. It's like entertainment and stories and stuff like that doesn't lead to this. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't cause this kind of thing. So don't fucking not whitewash, but don't fucking just like scrub everything of any type of, you know, realism and just expect it to be okay. I don't know.
I mean, I guess some people would make the argument that they don't really want realism in their games, you know? But I don't know.
Then go fucking play Candy Crush. I mean, if you're gonna play a fucking game where if you're gonna play a game where they have created a world, you want that world to be immersive, right? Sure. People that don't want to play this game because all they want to fucking do is get to end level and do their raiding in their dungeons, they don't fucking pay attention to that shit anyway. They probably have add-ons that skip all the fucking quest text. Super easy. Just do it and go get it and done, and don't pay attention to that stuff. But people that want to feel like they're playing in a really lived-in world, comments like that carry weight, and they indicate that these people, went through something and it affected them.
Right.
You know, and it's just, I don't know. I think they're starting to get to the point where they're just overreaching and just doing things to do things, not because there's any real benefit from it. So I didn't want to fucking talk about that shit that long. I don't know. Where do you think the lore is going to end? Do you think there is a way to end this without pissing everybody off?
Well, I feel like the whole shadow whatever garbage is the end, and at least that's what they paint. But I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what that means and how we get there and all that stuff, because a lot of that lore is still kind of behind a bunch of situations that we've kind of skipped over or haven't had a chance to look into, like the Windrunner chick, and her
Void Whispers.
Yeah, and the whole Void Elf.
Well, we know that there's a whole light and void type thing still out there.
Mm.
That hasn't fully been explored. We know that, we still haven't got through all the stuff with the first ones, and maybe we will in the next coming patches. Maybe Shadowlands will deal with the first ones and kind of explain that, or that'll be the next one, and then they got another one for the light and the dark. But it's just like, I mean, when does WoW end? Do we get a fucking multiverse? Do we get to the
well, let's put some perspective behind that real quick. And I know I've done this before, and I know I've said I've done something before, said something before. Shut up. Okay. All right.
Whoa.
I was talking to you, Jim, not anybody else. Just kidding. I was actually talking to everybody.
Wow.
EverQuest has their next expansion coming out, or is out. I'm not sure. Guess what number that is?
20? You don't even know.
You're close. I mean, you're close. I know, but you're close.
They're up there.
Not close enough. 28.
Holy shit. And they haven't even jumped out into this. I don't
know what their cadence is, but buddy, they've been all over the fucking place. So I mean, they had like a Planes of Power by, like, I don't know, the 4th expansion or 3rd expansion, something like that, where you go to a book of knowledge, port into a common area, which is called the Nexus, and then you could go between areas of the world and other places, Planes of Power or some shit, all kinds of stuff. So, and that was by like I think that was the 3rd or 4th expansion. So yeah, they've definitely been, but again, like, if people are playing and there's stuff to consume, right? If they can keep up with story, I think it's gonna diminish. I think that honestly, I kind of hope at this point, the whole effort of World of Warcraft, especially in Shadowlands and stuff, and pushing, I wouldn't say pushing the bar, trying to touch the bar, right? As far as like content and quality and all those things, trying to keep up with it. I hope it gives them a chance to reset themselves. And I would love to see that bar come down, because I think that's what's going to lead into non-blockbustery storylines and situations where we can actually get back to an actual MMO instead of this
Grandiose.
stupid
Yeah.
joyride thing that we have going on. That's like when you look back at Shadowlands, the damn expansion was really fun up until a certain point. I mean, it was a few months in, right? And then we kind of began to get burned out just because at that point it was the loop experience. And then, like, even though it felt like it had discoverability to it, it was the same recipe for the third expansion in a row. And it's like,
I think what they could do is they could, if they were just to start finding out a way to just churn out content, and if they could somehow generate the same amount of content in an expansion that vanilla had, right? They had at launch with a bunch of zones, a bunch of quests that just take forever to fucking do, or, you know, make it so that, you know, sure, you can maybe get to max level before the first content patch, but not necessarily, and you don't need to either. You know what I mean? Like, if it, just find a way to just put more just content in there and make it good.
Well, just the beginning of expansion is like that, though. Whenever you actually have to kind of work to get through some quests and stuff like that, and then, like, you don't have all the provisions that you have by the end of it or the middle of it or whatever, like, it is an experience. One, it's all new. Two, remember how many things remained kind of mysterious in Shadowlands to a certain extent up until really the first patch? You know, like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's even parts of the map that, like, I didn't discover for a long while just because I didn't have a reason to go that direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, like, I don't know. It's hard to say. And I hate to keep complaining about it, but because I really do. I mean, I love the beginning of the expansion, but coming back into a spot where, like, does it ever end? Yeah, for them, no. Obviously, money is the driver there. But the reality is, can they get to a point where they can stop producing big ass content like that?
Oh, I think
Yeah,
they're gonna.
so.
I think they're gonna burn out. You can't make every expansion.
Oh, they're already.
I
I think they're already burning out. I think that Shadowlands is the start of that. I think it's just one of those things, like, they probably go into a room and they say, hey, these are the topics that we can discover or go into or whatever. And what's the bang for our buck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or what's going to get the most buck from the bang? Like,
yeah,
it's
I think if you think
I think
about
that's
it,
the way they probably do it. And that's the way it's going to be until, that's why I'm saying my hope is now with this slowdown and the huge changes and all this stuff going on, maybe there's an opportunity where they become a core game studio again, right? And they discover, hopefully a lot of these changes are encouraging core game development culture that maybe they need to move it forward in a more fun way. Right? If other games can do shit like this, right? If I can play a ghost hunting game that has the same exact recipe, right? And still get spooked out every time I play it. It's so simple. It's gameplay. It's all about fucking gameplay, right?
Yeah.
It's not, it is probably hard, but it is not that damn hard,
Well,
okay?
Part of it, I think, what comes down to me, like, you talk about gameplay, they've made the gameplay so complicated now. Like, it's not complicated to to do the ghost hunting stuff, right? There's no min-maxing it, right? You go in, you do the things that you need to do for the ghost hunting things, and then you get out of there, hopefully alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't have that in WoW. Now it's become numbers and, you know, okay, well, can we beat the stupid enrage timer? Can we, you know, this? Can we do that? And it feels dumb. It feels like there's, you know, there's just, that's all you're doing is, like, simming everything now.
Well, compare that to that New World as well. Like, one of the cool aspects about that is like, one, I still don't know what the hell I'm doing most of the time, but two, like you got 3 skills at one time for the weapon that you're holding, and that's it, right? So you can just click to boom, 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 and then whenever your thing's off cooldown, you can do it, and that's it as far as I know, at least. And that makes for a great game. Even the bow and the gun, I mean, they're actually, it's fun to use because it's not the fucking focus of it for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, there is still a lot of fighting and stuff, but the focus is like, I'm chopping a tree and there's a turkey. Bam!
I just don't know how we get back to that. I don't know how you dump all that stuff in WoW and simplify it. I mean, I think they could magnify content. They could say, kind of like Hearthstone has a highlight of certain aspects in Warcraft. Like, this is the expansion of the Westfall. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, the expansion of something for this specific area, right.
And it just so happens to have reverberation throughout different zones in the world or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be, oh, now the world's invaded by an orange color. Oh, we ran out of colors. Crap. Start over. It's blue again. Or no, it's green. Yeah, it's green, and we'll go to blue. We'll go to white. And we'll go to pink.
Yeah. All right.
And then Magni will teleport out.
I'm waiting for him to pop up in the Shadowlands. It'll be funny.
I miss him now.
I miss
We had so much
Khadgar.
fun
Where the fuck
together.
is Khadgar?
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. He's just.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
nowhere.
hopefully we'll see those guys soon. You know, maybe I'll just go back to Silithus and just talk to Magni and just click on him a few times just to hear his Scottish brogue. You know. And, anyway,
Heroes.
I think we'll go ahead and we'll just go ahead and just
The
end
world's
here.
hemorrhoid is throbbing.
All right.
Heroes.
You just turned Russian. He's Scottish. Get the fuck out of here. All right. Anyway,
Come drink the vodka.
yeah, you can check us out at facebook.com/server restart in. Shoot us a tweet at server_restart, and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Twitter.